What's going on, YouTube? I hope you are doing well. Today we're going to break down all the attachments in Apex Legends as of Season 10. I have been asked to do this for a couple seasons now, and I have put it off because obviously the attachments aren't really changing from season to season. This has probably been done before, but I figured I would give you my recommendations as to what attachments will work out better on what guns and whatnot. I'm not going to try to make this too long. We're just going to go through it very quickly. So we're just going to start off with the barrel stabilizers. The barrel stabilizers are obviously probably the most simple one out of them all. They just reduce the recoil on the guns. But what you may not know is that actually the barrel stabilizers are not only reducing the recoil, they are reducing the randomness of your recoil. This basically means, if you have a white barrel, it's going to be reduced by about 20%. And I'll put all the numbers up on screen for you. I'm not going to go through them one by one. But basically, as soon as you put a barrel on, you're getting a 5% reduction in recoil, but you're also getting a 20% reduction in just overall randomness from left to right and up and down. This will help out a lot just by having a gray barrel. You don't get quite as much randomness benefits as you go to the blue and the purple. But all in all, I would absolutely encourage you to try at least get a gray barrel on your gun if you can. Certain guns don't really need the barrel stabilizers as much as others. I will say a gun like the Volt actually does not need a barrel stabilizer as badly as something like the R99 because it does reduce the randomness a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind as you are picking up the barrels. Moving on from the barrels, we are going to have the extended magazines. The extended magazines do currently have a gold mag. The gold mag just reloads your weapon automatically, which is obviously really nice to have, especially on some of the longer reload guns. And also, if you are just kind of swapping from gun to gun in mid-fight, your gun might get reloaded, which can be pretty clutch, actually. It will save you quite a bit. Other than that, the magazines are pretty self-explanatory, and obviously they do change in size based on, the rarity that you have in the weapon that you are using. From this, let's talk about stocks. Stocks actually saw a little buff this season. All in all, though, stocks are pretty simple. Obviously, they're just going to increase the overall speed that you are using the gun. So the amount of time it takes you to ADS down sights, so that means aiming down sights, or the amount of time it does take you to pull the gun up. So if you do have a gun down and you press, you bring out your gun, it's going to come out a little bit faster if you have a stock gun than when you don't, which is something good to have. Obviously, if you're in fight and you want to swap really quickly, it does help quite a bit. So don't kind of sleep on them. And now the stocks also increase the reload speed. Prior to this, it was on the extended magazine. I do find it doesn't really help a ton. It's something like 10% with a purple stock, which is nice. Obviously, reloading faster, it always works. For Apex, I don't think it matters as much. Honestly, the biggest thing for me is really just the ability to pull out your gun a little bit faster, aim down sights a little bit faster. You're just getting those milliseconds that you really need to aim down sights and kind of just laser people. All in all, though, I'll throw up all the stats of the stocks on screen. There's really not too big a difference between the sniper stocks and the regular stocks. The only difference really is that the sniper stocks have a less of a bonus, I'll say, in certain categories. The one things that the sniper stocks do have over the regular is going to be that aim drift. So when you are using a sniper rifle, you will really be able to aim down sights a little bit better without having your gun kind of sway around as it would normally if you don't have a stock. So besides that, though, honestly, not too much more to talk about the stocks. So let's now just briefly talk about the shotgun bolts in Apex. Honestly, the shotgun bolts, again, are pretty simple. They just increase your rate of fire with the guns. I will say, depending on the weapon you have, it will change the amount that your fire rate is being increased. I will say, if you have something like the Peacekeeper, the fire rate increase or the chamber speed right there is not going to be as much as like a reload on an EVA. And this is just so it kind of compensates to make it a little bit more fair. If the PK was rechambering at astronomical speeds, it wouldn't really be fair for the gun. So this does adjust a little bit based on what weapon you are using. I will say that even the Mastiff do have the same reload and rechamber speeds. And then the Peacekeeper is a little bit slower than the other two. Really, though, what you are getting is the fire rate out of them. It's 15% for the gray, 25% for the blue, and 35% for the purple. Obviously, there's a pretty big jump between them. Obviously, getting a gray one over none is a 15% bonus, where when you're getting a blue to a gray, it's only a 10% bonus. So having a gray will matter quite a bit if you can get it, because it is going to boost that fire rate on the shotguns. Moving on, let's just briefly talk about the optics. Obviously, the optics are really all personal preference, and it is going to absolutely matter on what gun you do have. Let's go through all of them, though. I just picked them all up right here. And I'm not going to talk about the sniper ones quite yet, but let's just talk about the default ones. For the most part, I think the king one is going to be the 1x dot right here, the classic. I don't really know too many people that actually like the hollows, just because the hollows obviously are going to cover a little bit more of your screen. If you're looking down sights and you have something above you, you won't be able to see them because of that. the iron sights on top. But if you do put the dot on, it just makes it way more clean. It's a little bit easier to see left and right, top and bottom. So that's something to keep in mind. Generally, the 1x dot is what you should go for. The 2x is a little bit different. This is a little bit more subjective. For me, I like the bruiser because it's similar to the dot. I don't like a lot of clutter. The 2x variable does clutter your screen more, but you have that option to have different zooms. Overall, though, I don't care too much for the 1 to 2x. I have been picking it up a little bit more lately. But overall, I do want the 2x bruiser. The 3x is really a preference. It's kind of like the 2x bruiser, except it's a little bit more thick, but this is really because you are just aiming down sights more. I do like the 3x. I've been using it on the R301 in the flatline a little bit, trying to get used to it. I have even been using it on the L-Star, but all in all, the 3x is really going to depend on if you can control the recoil. And the final zoom one is going to be the 2 to 4. The 2 to 4 is kind of a little bit more of a range type of thing. For me, it's going to go on a lot of single shotguns. I like the G7 with the 2 to 4, the 30-30 with the 2 to 4. I don't really like my ARs with it. It's just extremely obstructive on your screen. I mean, look how much stuff is being covered up by that optic rather than 2x bruiser, which is the same zoom. But if you want a little bit more range, if you're playing ranked, maybe you want a little bit more range, you do have that 4x capability. And then the final thing we didn't really talk about is going to be the digital threat. Honestly, I don't really love the digital threat. I only really use the DT if I am running with a Bangalore or some other type of legend that is going to provide a little bit cover for the team. I will use the DT on weapons like the R9. I will not use it really on the Wingman. I find it really hard to use it. It just feels really weird to control it. I don't know what it is about it. Overall, though, I don't love it. I do think it's a good sight. Obviously, it's one of the best sights in the game. If you're a Bangalore, you absolutely need to pick one up. That's really where DT will excel. So let's just talk briefly about the sniper scopes. The 4 to 8 is pretty much the same as the 2 to 4. You know, you got that variable zoom, so you can pick people at different ranges. I actually don't really care much for the 4 to 8. I would almost always rather just have the 2 to 4 because I do want that close range on my snipers. It kind of depends on the type of game you're playing. For me, I'm not really a sniper. I don't really go for extreme long range picks. If you're going for a damage with something like the longbow, it could be worth it, or even something like the charge rifle. I would say the 4 to 8 is definitely going to be something you might want to try out. The other one is going to be the 4 to 10, the gold one, the big baddie of them all. For me, I don't really like the 4 to 10. I don't like the optics on it. I do not like the crosshairs for some reason. It just feels really weird. I know it's pretty clean. I just do not like it. It's really all personal preference. Obviously, you do get a DT, but I don't really see where the DT is going to be that effective. You know, if you're shooting someone at 300 meters away, and I guess, you know, if it's a Bangalore and they're smoking themselves, then I guess it's good that you got the DT. Overall, though, I don't really see the DT being that useful. And finally, let's just talk about the 6x. The 6x I actually think is a nice, healthy median. I do think it lacks some of the versatility of the 4 to 8. So I, again, don't really pick up the 6x, like, pretty much at all. I'll pretty much never take the 6x. I'd rather just rock the 2 to 4. So then I do have a little bit more close range, whereas the 6, I'm locked into 6x all the time. Don't have anything else. That is everything for the main attachments. Now let's briefly just go over the hop-ups for the season. Let's just start with Deadeye's Tempo. It currently works on both the Bocek and the Sentinel. It's basically just simple, you know, as you're shooting, as you're aiming down sight, you shoot, and then you got a blue bar in the bottom, and when that bar kind of lights up, you can then shoot, and then you can just keep doing it, and you'll have rapid firing capabilities. That works both for the bow and the Sentinel. I don't really find the Deadeye's Tempo to be that effective. I haven't really used it on the Sentinel that much. The bow, I don't know. If you're rapid firing, it probably means you might be missing, and then like if you are hitting shots, you probably don't need a rapid fire. Maybe that's a little convoluted, but I just don't find the Deadeye's Tempo to be that worth it. So the light guns right now have no hop-ups. So if we move over to the heavy, we got the boosted loader and the shatter caps. So now let's talk about shatter caps. Shatter caps I find work out much better on the 30-30 than the bow for whatever reason. I don't know if it just feels a little bit more natural to be coming from the 30-30. And it basically just turns your gun into a shotgun. It's actually pretty reliable, I say. It's pretty close to an EVA in terms of damage. But all in all, I do find this to be pretty underrated. The pellet pattern is a little weird, I'll say. It's kind of like a Y almost, which is a little bit odd because the person's head is obviously smaller on top, and if it's a Y, it probably means you're going to miss some pellets towards their head, which will reduce your damage that you're going to be doing. But I do find the shatter caps work pretty good on the 30-30. I think I've been sleeping on it a little bit. I need to use it a little bit more. And then let's just talk about the boosted loader. The boosted loader goes on both the Wingman and the Hemlock. This is a brand new attachment to the season that we have never seen in the game before. It basically just gives you more ammo in your magazine if you are reloading at the perfect time. And basically, you're going to see in the middle, as the bar goes down, as soon as it hits the green, if I hit reload, it will then reload at that fast fire rate, and then I got more rounds in the mag. So if I just keep shooting until it hits the green, I reload, and then it has fast reload activated. Now I'm at 11 rounds in a wingman, which is pretty wild, actually. This is very close to the season 1 days, which is pretty exciting, even though it's not the same damage. Now let's just talk about the turbocharger. The turbocharger works for both the devotion and the havoc. Basically, it's exactly as it sounds. It makes the bullets come out much quicker off the start. So that was with the turbo. If I take the turbo off, you'll notice it takes a second to charge up like that. I find the havoc, it's pretty good. You know, you can't tap fire it, which is kind of a problem. But as soon as you get the havoc going, you know, it goes. No, you don't need the turbo after that. But it is really good if you're going to play. I can just start shooting right away. I don't have that delay. And the havoc is probably one of the best guns in the game, honestly, if you get close enough. The devotion, I'll say with the turbo, helps out a good amount. You know, it kind of reduces the recoil faster early on. You know, if I take the turbo off, it has a lot of recoil and it's very slow to start off. And I just find the devotion really needs the turbo. I would say even more so than the havoc. So keep that in mind as you're using it. In all, guys, that is all the attachments for the guns that you can put on. Let's just talk about the alternator real quick. This does have disruptor rounds on it, even though it is a care package weapon and it doesn't have the actual attachment listed. But basically, this just does, it's something like 40% more damage to shields, and this can absolutely shred. You can basically take out a red evoed shield in 5 bullets, and then you still have another 22 to the mag to hit them in the body with the alternator. I find that this alternator is honestly going to be working very well with teams. You know, if you're team shotting, you have the person with the alternator open up, and then you got the people clean them up for the body shots. I do think the alternator feels a little bit weird. It's not as good as it was back in the season 1 and 2 days, but, you know, that's okay because it was doing something like 50 damage to a shield back then, which is just way too much. But I think the alternator is really good, and I do think it's probably slept on a little bit. And then all in all, guys, that is all the attachments in Apex Legends. I try to make this as fast as possible, give you guys some of my tips and opinions. The big thing to take away about this is really going to be the barrel stabilizers. The barrel stabilizers will help you extend your range in fights. They'll help you control the guns. And this is going to make you extend your damage range, which means the farther you can shoot that gun that you pick up, the more you're going to be able to drop your opponents, and you will be able to compete with them at longer ranges. And they might not be able to compete with you if you do get the range and the recoil down. And then beyond this, really, you know, the magazine size, of course, is good to have. Certain guns do benefit from the bigger mags than other guns. You know, something like the G7 doesn't really need a mag because it's a single fire gun. Obviously, it's nice to have 20 rounds in your G7 with that level 3, but something like the Havoc with a level 3 mag is going to get 36 energy rounds instead of the 24 at the base. So this is when the mag would really matter more. So just keep that in mind as you are picking up the attachments. If you have any questions about the attachments, drop a comment down below. I would love to chat with you about them. You know, I can answer your questions. Hopefully this made sense. I don't really do these videos too often where I'm just free flowing it. Again, let me know if you have any questions. I will see you live in the streams. I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace out.